So when you see red, go.
We're good. We're red.
Welcome to the Six Steel City Rings podcast. I am Ray Whiting, and with me I have Zach Franciscus and Bob Quinn. Guys, how y'all doing this evening?
Wonderful.
Good.
Good.
We are in the afterglow of the 53-man roster. The final cut just came out as of 4 p.m. today, and that's what we're going to talk about this evening. Again, we got some interesting words to talk about this roster here. We're going to get into. So if you want to, please chime in. Again, we are live right now. So if you have any questions, please type in the chat bar, and we'll respond to you. So we're going to get things started right now. We're going to start off with the wide receiver position because as of right now, it shows here that we have George Pickens, Van Jefferson, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, and Scotty Miller. And
it's real surprised we only kept 5 wide receivers. I thought Des Fitzpatrick had done enough to make the roster. I'm really skeptical about this group. I do think there's going to be an addition. George Pickens is 6'3". Van Jefferson is 6'1". Then apparently we're trying to recreate the Washington football team of the 1980s with the Smurfs, because we've got Calvin Austin, Scotty Miller, and a hurt Roman Wilson at 5'10", 5'9", 5'9". I mean, to me, this does look like they're counting on maybe Roman Wilson to be healthy by the first week of the season, which, if that's true, is great.
Yeah.
But if Roman Wilson can't go and we've got those 4 guys, I mean, I don't see why any defense wouldn't quadruple cover George Pickens.
Yeah, I've seen several people, I think it was Steeler Sanctuary and a couple other people say that this is one of the worst wide receiver rooms Mike Tomlin's had in a long time, if not his entire career. And I can see why, because I'm not going to say that Omar Khan missed out or all that. I think he's perfectly fine with how it worked out with Ayuk. But there's a gap there where we still have that gap. And even if Roman Wilson is healthy, even if he is a wide receiver 2, potentially, he's not going to be when he hits the ground. So we talked about it in the pre. Our offense has to hit the ground running. We don't really have a lot of room for error. So I like the scrappiness of the wide receiver room. I like the chip on your shoulder. We're going to earn our way in kind of stuff, but that doesn't translate to success on a football field when you don't have a wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2. And right now we have half of them.
Yeah, that's great for training camp, be scrappy and good story and all that stuff. This is the regular season now. I don't want to hear scrappy. I don't want to hear good story. Yep. I want to see production. And with the exception of Pickens, who, by the way, in his 3rd year, I mean, yes, he's a big play guy. 63 catches last year, over 1,000 yards, led the NFL in yards per catch. He's a big play guy. We have yet to see him be the 3rd down go-to guy. I think he can do it. I think he should have been doing it, but there are some issues here, because come 3rd down, whether it's Roman Wilson or Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, when they're looking for that key play, we think it's George Pickens. Yeah, we think it's Pat Freiermuth. But bottom line is both of those guys have a lot to prove to be a down-in, down-out, reliable option versus just a flash. I think Van Jefferson is our default number 2 at this point, because even if Roman Wilson can play in the opener, at best, that's a split time situation. And then, of the rest of them, okay, Scotty Miller should be the guy out there as the 3rd wide receiver, because in the preseason he was by far the most productive.
Yeah.
Again, that's why I'm really surprised Des Fitzpatrick, based on the size here, didn't make the team. But there are some guys out there. There's some familiar names to Steeler fans. Miles Boykin was cut today. Martavis Bryant was cut today. I don't know how viable bringing either one of those 2 back, but at least they're big.
I'd be curious for them to kick the wheels on Bryant, because let's just say that Mike Tomlin sees the spark of talent that was still there. let's try it out, because like you said, that's a body type. Even in Pickens, we don't have someone like the alien. Because I remember what Martavius Bryant was like, and we're not going to get that, but maybe that'll be a height thing, because right now you're not going to find a viable wide receiver 2 being cut by another team right now. Yeah. So we're not going to find our answer there. We might find somebody that's a little more passable, but we still got time before the regular season starts. You never know what could happen. Ayuk hasn't signed.
Yeah.
So
there's a couple. Go ahead.
You know, in years past, Pittsburgh has carried a decent fleet of receivers. They have been. And now, I mean, again, this is surprising to see this group right here, this group of receivers, because again, after George Pickens, it's a big drop off. And like you said, Bob, after George, it's a big drop off, and Roman Wilson, you know, he's hurt, so therefore, default number 2 is Van Jefferson. So, it is slim pickings after George Pickens. That's one thing. You know,
there's a couple other interesting non-Steeler retreads out there. Noah Brown is an interesting name. He got cut by the Texans, and that wasn't necessarily because he wasn't good. It's because the Texans are ridiculous at wide receiver. I know there was a rumor floating around that maybe we would try to pry a guy like John Mechie, who was hurt, and with the cancer and everything, and kind of sat out for a year, and then didn't get on the field very much. But when he did, he kind of flashed a little bit. That's an Alabama wide receiver. He may be a good player. I don't know that I want to give up draft capital to get John Mechie unless it's like very low draft capital. Noah Brown could be an interesting guy. Kadarius Toney's out there. That could be an interesting name, although I can't think of a name outside of Marquez Valdez-Scantling and Deontay Johnson who has more trouble with drops.
Right.
And Toney is rumored to not be a good locker room guy, so I don't know that that's viable. But
I think I'm a very old school guy when it comes to offense, what doesn't normally translate very well to offense nowadays, because I look at this wide receiver room, I look at our running game, I look at what I want our offensive line to be, and I'm like, you know what? This is exactly the kind of offense a game manager needs. And I'm like, this is perfect. So if Russell Wilson can be a game manager, I think this could be a productive offense, only because of our defense. With I think any other team in the NFL that did not have a defense like we do, I don't think it could work. But I have some reason not to feel hopeful, but to see it and on paper say this could translate to some of Russell Wilson's skills that he still has. Not skills that I'm hoping he'll get back. Skills that he has right now, which I think is protect the football, don't do too much, and don't lose games. That's all I want from him.
So I look 5 yards down the field, so it's it could be really easy for him to find Jalen Warren and Connor Hayward a bunch.
With this, it would have to be, because everyone would know who would use to stretch the field. It would George Pickens. Maybe everyone Van Jefferson runs this, but you're not going to be able to disguise much or fool the defense much with this particular wide receiver.
And if you're Omar Khan, this quick question here. If you're Omar Khan, do you go out and try to trade for a receiver, or you try to pick up an undrafted, well, not undrafted, but just a free agent, or just go with what you got?
Right. It's kind of too late. I mean, it's as far as the trade goes, we don't know what it's ever going to happen with Ayuk. But that being said, any receiver the Steelers go sniff around at this point, teams are going to up their asking price. Yep. They're just going to, because they know what they're looking at. I mean, the retreads are the retreads. I mean, it's out there. Personally, I don't think it would be preferable, but I think a guy like Miles Boykin will maybe draw some interest. He's a big receiver. He's a good special teams player. He's a good blocker. I mean, am I gonna pop the champagne because we re-signed Miles Boykin? No, but I do. I mean, honestly, he's probably better than Des Fitzpatrick. So, yeah, I could see a guy like that. But, as far as the trade goes, no, we're not going to. Bob Pompiani today, I watched him on one of the Pittsburgh Post-Gazettes with Brian Batko, one of their podcasts. He thinks they're going to do this with screen passes, that they're going to make the screen pass a big part of the offense, and that's how they're going to draw defenders up and get Pickens his one-on-ones or even one-on-twos. Steelers are going to see a lot of zone coverage, I think, with a man over the top of Pickens until Pat Freiermuth. McCole Pruitt is a name to watch out for. He's a low-key guy who's going to get a lot of targets, and he's a productive tight end. If he stays healthy, he could have a nice year.
No. A quick touch on the wide receivers, which leans a little bit towards the tight ends. I don't think a lot of Steeler fans are kind of ready for the kind of offense we're going to see. We haven't known how to use our tight ends over the last while, and this is going to be a really fun year for if you're a tight end on the Steelers. Now, maybe even Connor Hayward a little bit will get involved, even though we'll talk his positionally later on, but I'm excited for tight ends to be an important part of the Steeler offense again, because I miss the Heath Miller days. And I think this particular blue-collar offense that we like, it deserves a bunch of tight ends that know what they're doing. So I'm excited to see Pat Freiermuth get back into it, and maybe even Darnell.
Yeah, that's it, Ticket.
Bob flexing all of his new things out of it. But we got that. What about the defense? Because not a lot of surprises on defense, but some interesting things.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised Darius Rush made the team. I kind of predicted it the other day. I think there is going to be another move at cornerback before the season starts. I know, again, Bob Pompiani advanced the idea of maybe Patrick Peterson. I don't necessarily love that idea, but at this point, would I rather have old Pat Peterson in the slot if he can play there versus Beanie Bishop? Yeah, give me the guy who's probably going to be a Hall of Famer. At least I can look at it and say, well, he used to be good. The linebackers are kind of surprised they took 5 in the inside linebackers. Mark Robinson made the team, which I think he only did because Cole Holcomb is on the PUP list. But Mark Robinson had a really, really good camp. And there was talk that they believe the light has gone on in year 3. And if they do, that's an embarrassment of riches in the inside linebacker. Kind of surprised we only kept 3 outside linebackers, Zach. What do you think?
Well, that's the thing, because actually the outside linebackers include one person that kind of switches around a bit, because I remember the articles I wrote during the early offseason last year about DeMarvin Leal. And if you would have told me I was going to speak positively about DeMarvin Leal right now, I would have laughed at you. But what a turnaround, because I saw things in this preseason that was like, yes, this is what we drafted you to do. This is the exciting stuff that we hope. It's he could play the defensive line position, and he could be that other outside linebacker. So while we might have 5 inside linebackers, that Mark Robinson, depending on what he can do, but DeMarvin Leal is going to be able to jump into that revolving door that right now includes the Herbig, Highsmith, and Watt. So, I mean, because that's a very, very rich outside linebacker group, but it's thin if you don't count Leal. You bring Leal in, you feel a little better about that, especially since we have a very deep defensive line. So that front 7 is exciting. I can't remember this last. I've been excited about linebackers before, but I don't remember the last time I've been this excited about a front 7 as a group. And especially when we have kind of questions in the secondary, in the slot area, and we don't know what it's going to look like next to Minka. Yep, we don't know what Deshaun Elliott's going to do. So there's some questions there, and I think the front 7 is going to take some of the pressure off of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the interesting thing is we have gone from, look, we'll take anybody off the street to play inside linebacker last season to, when we say an embarrassment of riches, you could make a case right now, as good as Patrick Queen is as a starter, and more than likely Landon Roberts next to him, when Cole Holcomb comes back, you've got Cole Holcomb and Peyton Wilson sitting behind them. You could make a case they're a better tandem than Roberts and Queen. Now, Queen is going to be the unquestioned probably leader of the group. But when they come back, I've got a wild theory. We talked about it a little bit in prep. Peyton Wilson is, for those of you who don't know, he's faster than Joey Porter. He's faster than Beanie Bishop.
So fast.
I think it would be really interesting because nickel corner is such a problem area for the team to occasionally throw Peyton Wilson in the nickel and blitz him like they used to blitz Mike Hilton. I think that could be really dynamic and something teams wouldn't know what to do. Because let's face it, you got a running back out there who's supposed to chip and stop Peyton Wilson coming off the corner. It's one thing to chip Beanie Bishop or Minka or another defensive back. You got a freight train coming at you. And bear in mind, you got guys like Herbig, Watt, Highsmith who are coming around the edges. Oh my gosh. I truly believe 60 sacks is a real possibility with this unit.
I like that. Okay, I'm gonna hold you to that prediction, Bob. 60.
I don't know if Terrell Austin is creative enough to do it, but I'd love to see it.
Yeah, my thing is Tyler Matakevich is back with the team.
Great special teams guy.
His first 10, his previous 10 with the Steelers, was he given a chance? Yes. There were some times where he just didn't make the play. Of course, he was injured sometimes as well. But to bring him back, I thought it was kind of.
He's supposed to make he's our special teams guy, though. That's why he's on the team.
Yeah.
We got a lot of just special teams guys, though. Miles Killebrew, Tyler Matakevich, which, by the way, I think Matakevich is in real trouble to be a cut before the season starts if they bring Miles Boykin back, because Miles Boykin is a special teams ace too. And do you keep the slow fifth inside linebacker when you got Cole Holcomb coming back, or do you take the faster wide receiver who's also a good special teams tackler and put him in there, especially with the new way they do it? Matakevich is good for what he is. He's a very good special teams player. He's making his living on that. If he sees a play at inside linebacker, either we better be up or down 28, or oh my gosh, has it gone terribly wrong?
Guys, go ahead, Zach.
Oh, I'm curious, just really quick before we move on for this, from an X's and O perspective. If you were tasked, Bob, so you are the defensive coordinator of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Mike Tomlin said, I want you to find the most creative way possible to get all four of our middle linebackers involved, or at least as many of them as you can. How do you think you would best go about doing that in a live play? Because they're all four amazing. How do you do that?
Are you talking about when Cole Holcomb's back? Because I'm not making.
Yeah, no. When Cole Holcomb's back, when you have that, like we were talking about, the Wilson, Holcomb, Roberts, Queen foursome. Is there any way to utilize that? I'm just wondering off the top of my head.
Well, I think then you've got, you obviously Landon Roberts. Not that he wasn't decent in pass coverage last year; he played above his head. But if you take a guy like Landon Roberts, he's an obvious running down base set. He's the guy you want inside linebacker next to Queen. I want to keep Queen on the field as much as possible initially. So I think creatively, maybe Peyton Wilson off the edge in that nickel. He's definitely the dime coverage guy over Holcomb, who is good at coverage. But Wilson's a little bit faster and as of now is a little bit healthier. I think Holcomb is kind of a jack, of all trades guy with coming back off the injury. I think you use him as I know I can put him in on first down as a thumper next to Queen. I know I can put him in coverage to spell Wilson. So, yeah, you got to kind of work Holcomb back in slowly, and I think you have to be really, really careful. There's no guarantee coming off another devastating injury that he's going to be the player he was. But, he's been hurt seriously before and come back and played pretty good. So, yeah, I think it's nice to have the rotational. I would also consider maybe having Peyton Wilson take a few reps at edge rusher because of his speed and see if he can handle that as the fourth edge rusher. I'm not sitting down TJ or Alex or Herbig there, but maybe occasionally instead of DeMarvin Leal, I'll throw Peyton Wilson out there and see what happens because it's two different styles. I think Leal is a good bull rusher. If you've got a slighter tackle, then Leal is a good guy to sub in. But if you got a nice, quick, all pro type of tackle, let him see if he can deal with Wilson's speed off the edge.
My goodness, that's an exciting front seven. But Ray, we're gonna move away from that as I go to move my cat away from it.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about the O-line.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just preface this by saying that not so much the guys they kept, but the depth chart. And
inconceivable. 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 You keep using the word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Oh, it means it, Inigo Montoya. It means it. I mean, look, the guys we kept, the only guy I'm really surprised by is McCollum because the rumor has been that, Mason McCormick has taken some snaps. Spencer Anderson has taken some snaps. We know James Daniels can take some snaps. So keeping a true backup center just in case for Frazier, maybe as an emergency, but I don't expect him to stay long term if any of those guys can prove they're a decent backup. Only 3 tackles. I mean, I don't know what we're doing. I really don't. Our friend Dave,
one of them is Dan Moore.
Yeah, our friend Dave at Steelers Sanctuary tweeted out that this is coaching mismanagement. I cannot echo that more strongly. I mean, if Fatano's not healthy in the first game, and let's hope he is. If Fatano's not healthy, it's Dan Moore, Broderick Jones, and Spencer Anderson, I guess, as the backup. And even if you go with Broderick Jones at left and Troy Fatano at right, you don't have a swing tackle. Dan Moore is not a swing tackle. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just shocked we're at this point with this offensive line, the capital we've invested. I think the guards and center are deep and good. The tackles.
Yeah. My thing is we've talked about this year after year. We fuss, we raise 9 kinds of hell. Basically called Mike Tomlin everything but a child of God, and why would you put Dan Moore at left tackle? He's been getting as much money taken game after game after game, and we can't shake him off. It just I'm sorry, man.
Why would you want to keep the guy who's given up the most pressures in the NFL?
Yes.
Since he's come into the league at left tackle, he has given up the most pressures in the NFL. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. Not only do we keep him, he refuses to learn another position, and we reward him. Our first-round draft pick playing at a position who got hurt on the first day of training camp because they played him out of position because they want to reward Dan Moore. It's absolutely ridiculous. As far as I'm concerned, Pat Meyer, Mike Tomlin.
Then as of this moment, they're on double secret probation.
Yeah, the only thing I'm hoping is that, well, Bob, you mentioned that it's kind of another overflow of wealth that I feel that we are too blessed on the interior of our line. We have a good interior offensive, not just good. We have a contending interior, and what I'm hoping is that interior somehow rescues the outside until Fatano's back.
Bob,
because I have to hope that's what happens because the frustration I feel at the way the outside of our line has been handled, not just the retention of Dan Moore, but the playing people out of position, there's such a drastic difference to the inside of the line. And I'm hoping Zach Frazier grows into the ownership that this is my offensive line, like Pouncey felt, and does not allow any shenanigans to happen on the outside of his line. Something has to happen that changes this narrative, or we're going to watch it just collapse on whatever quarterback it is, and then we're going to be forced to start Justin Fields because we need someone that can escape, regardless of whether Russell Wilson was playing well or not.
Bob, I believe at this point right now, I believe it's damages the feeling until Troy gets back.
He is.
You know, and then at that point, you put Broderick in his respectful position and put Troy on the right side. All is well. You got a solid offensive line. With that being said, if Dan stays at left tackle, Bob, you and we're gonna start a petition.
Oh, Ray will join Bob's side. Okay, we have that on video, so
yeah,
that's what we see.
Like Mike Tomlin would listen to the fans as far as that goes. You know what? If I was Broderick Jones, you know what I would do? I'd march into Mike Tomlin's office and say, I play left tackle.
Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth?
And maybe Mike Tomlin would listen. Broderick Jones has got to get aggressive here, folks, because we're in the second year. We're going to be having to make a decision on his option after next season. You know, I mean, what offensive lineman at this point have we played at position in the right position in a decade? It's ridiculous. This is the ghost of Matt Canada and Mike Tomlin and Pat Meyer trying to prove that no, we knew better. We should have kept him. You know, yeah, you got the new guy, but we're not listening to him. And frankly, if Arthur Smith is listening to them, dude, start looking for another career.
Now, I will say this one thing outside of all these positional and skill players that we're talking about. Do not discount the impact that Cameron Johnston is going to have on this football team. That legitimately, I don't know the last time I've been actually excited about a punter. I don't know. When I played punter on Madden when I was like 17, that's the last time I was excited, because I remember with this particular kind of team and the kind of football we play, how crucial punting is to us. And so I'm just hoping that that'll distract from, if the offensive line does get us into trouble early, that all of a sudden Cameron Johnston pins the other team in within the 5 every time, and we get 6 safeties and we win 6-0. I remember 2005, we beat the Minnesota Vikings without scoring a touchdown, and we had a safety in that game. It's possible. So come on, Cameron Johnston. I am on your side, bud. Hunters are people too.
I mean, it kind of says everything we need to say about the offense when Zach is excited about the punter as our offensive weapon.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that says more about Presley Harvin than anything else. So because I think a lot.
Well,
the least said about Presley Harvin, the better.
Yeah,
exactly.
He was released. He was cut.
The last thing I'll say about all of this is not all of this kind of comes down to, and Elsie will agree with me, week 1, we'll know. We were bamboozled last year, and week 1, we were thrown into a brick wall against the 49ers and our hearts sank. I'm hoping this time all of the concern and the worry and the anxiety we're going to have when we watch it, I'm hoping that we get a good game, like 27-3 kind of win, where we all walk away saying, well, that felt good, because we're not going to know either way until then. It looks like it might be going one way or the other, but we won't know for sure. So that's half of that. I have to leave it there or my heart can't take it.
Well, one thing I will say is if you follow along with us closely, you know I don't think very much of Kevin Colbert and what he did the second half of his career. But one thing he was good at all the way up until the end was finding, after the final cuts were made, is finding 1 or 2 key players and adding them to the roster. So we're going to see if Omar Khan can kind of match that. Last season, he spun Kevin Dotson into a draft pick, which we all thought at the time was great. But now that he signed a huge contract, we all thought all you could get was a 5th rounder. So I'll be interested to see. We're all going to be rooting for the black and gold, and and we hope good things
Absolutely.
happen. But you know, there are some issues. There's going to be some nervous moments. And what a Steelers season be if we weren't sitting there in the fourth quarter going, "Please, TJ, make a play."
Yeah.
Now, and for anyone who thinks that we're being too harsh, an important thing to remember is that, we want to be better than the Matt Canada thing. But when you move from Matt Canada to someone like Arthur Smith, who's supposed to be a professional, that your expectations have to raise above just better than Matt Canada. So all of us, we're upset because we're frustrated because we should be back at NFL like normal NFL contending level was what we have. And the fact that we're not, and we're not reaching those expectations with the changes we made, that's what we're upset about. So anyone who's happy just that we're not, we don't have Matt Canada, raise your expectation. We're better than that. Come on.
Yeah.
Take us out, Ray.
All right, guys. If you, like I said, if you enjoyed this, please like, share, subscribe, and click on the notifications tab when we go live. And again, we're on every week. Again, we also have a TikTok video at Steel City Rings TikTok. We're on it as well. And again, like, subscribe, and share, please. Again, we love to hear from you. If you have any questions, send them to us. Guys, you all take care. Zach, Bob, thank you for coming on. We're going to do this again soon on the Six Steel City Rings podcast. Take care.
Just smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.